Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Math. Today, we are dealing with f of x and g of x, okay? We're dealing with the inverses of each other, meaning that all we have to do today is plug in one equation into another equation, okay? Think of substitution. When you do substitution, which you did on the first 6 weeks of this uh, class, you have to solve for a variable, then you plug in for that variable for whatever you got as an answer. We're kind of doing the same thing. The only difference is it's already pretty much solved for you. All you have to do is plug it in. Okay, so it's a lot simpler. I will say this, guys, before I start on the concept. Since it's pre-calc, you guys should already be familiar with a lot of the equations. Okay, theoretically, you're gonna see a lot of fractions. Okay, in this concept. Okay, that's the way it is because we're already at that advanced classes where we start seeing a lot of fractions. If you still don't know how to do fractions, okay, let me know, okay? This way I can help you out with a little more fractions. We can work on them together. This way they're easier for you. Whenever you see it, you'll be like, oh, I know how to do that with fractions, okay? So now that you know that, let's get started on the concept for today. So again, like I said, we're dealing with f of x and g of x. Okay, the way we're gonna deal with them today is multiplication. Okay, just multiplication, nothing else. No adding, no subtracting, no dividing. Okay, the way you usually see it is f times g of x equals x. Okay, this is just a fancy way of saying f of x times g of x should give you x, okay? The x is actually just a variable, okay? So if you get x as your answer, then you're on the right path, okay? If you get like actual numbers, then they're probably not gonna work out, okay? So make sure you know the difference between this and this. Just a little pop quiz, you know the difference between f of x and g of x, okay? Remember, that's actually a question for the assignment for today. On the previous concepts, I've told you what's another way of saying f of x, another way of saying g of x. Okay, submit that as well with your notes and your answers for today's concept. All right, so make sure you have this down. All right, now that you have it down, we can actually start. Our problem for today is we have f of x equals 3x minus 1. Okay. G of x equals 1/3 x plus 1/3. Okay, like I said, you're gonna start seeing a lot of fractions. Okay, so we have 3x minus 1, and g of x is 1/3 x plus 1/3. Okay, all we have to do is we're gonna plug it in f of x or g of x. We're gonna plug it into f of x to see what we get, and then we're gonna do the inverse. We're gonna plug in f of x into g of x. Okay, you might ask yourself, how do we do that? Remember, substitution. All you have to do is, we're going to write our first equation, the one we're going to deal with. We're going to have f of x, so we have 3, okay? 3. Now we're going to do parentheses, because instead of x, we're going to plug in this equation, okay? We're going to plug in 1/3 x plus 1/3 minus 1, okay? Now that we have that in there, make sure it has down. All we have to do is distribute 3 times 1 is 3 over 3, right? Because there's a 1 under. All whole numbers have a 1 under. So you have 3 times 1 is 3. There's a 1 under. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 over 3 is just 1. Okay? So it becomes x, or 1x, okay, for the first part, because 3 over 3 became 1. 3 times 1 is plus 3. Again, 1 times 3 is 3, which also becomes 1. So technically it becomes 1 minus 1, okay, the one on the outside. Notice that positive 1 and negative 1. You cannot combine the x with any of them. But you can have positive 1 minus 1, cancels out. We're left with x, okay? So here's what I was talking about. Notice how I just was left with x, okay? So that's one answer. Now we're going to do the opposite, okay? Now we're going to plug in 3x minus 1 into the x of the 1/3. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do 1/3, okay? Instead of x, we're going to plug in 3x minus 1, and then the rest of the equation from the bottom plus 1/3, okay? So all we did is plug in the equation on top instead of the x. Again, 1 times 3, it's 3. There's a 1 under a full number again. 3 times 1, it's still 3. So that also becomes a 1x, or just x, okay? X minus 1 times 1 is 1. There's always a 1 under a full number. All full numbers have a 1 under. 3 times 3 is 3. And then, since we already combined the inside the parentheses, we're left with plus 1/3. So again, you cannot combine the x with the 1/3, but you can do negative 1/3 plus 1/3. So positive and negative are the same. They cancel out. We're left with x. So we have two x's, okay? X there, x there. So that means that f of x of 3x minus 1 and g of x of negative 1/3 x plus 1/3, they are inverse of each other, okay? Because we got the same answers, okay? So they're inverse of each other. And that's it. We're just trying to find out if they're inverses, okay? So like I said, all you're going to do is mostly just substitute one equation inside the other, like you did on the first 6 weeks on one of those concepts, okay? Then just pretty much solve it straight out. All you have to get is the same answer of both. If you get the same answer, then yes, they are inverse of each other, okay? Hint, hint, guys. By the same answer means you have to get an x. If you get a number here and an x here, then they are not the same, okay? Make sure you write the notes. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. If you have any questions, all right? Or if you start off the class late, you don't know about substitution, go ahead and send me an email. Okay, we'll go over a little more. All right, so make sure you write this down. All right, now that you have it down, your examples for today, or your problems for today, should I say, your assignment. Your assignment for today is f of x equals 1/4 x plus 5, and g of x equals 4x minus 20. Okay, that's your first one. For your second problem, your second problem is f of x equals 1/2 x minus 10, okay, to 10. Hopefully you guys can see that. And g of x equals 2x plus 1/10, okay, 1/10. I know my markers are all dying here. Need to get some new markers. All right, so 2x plus 1/10, okay? So again, you have two problems. You have the top one, you have the bottom one. Again, submit your answers as soon as you're watching the video, and I'll be waiting for your email.